Captain Kim Hana stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the stars move past in the calm darkness of space. She had been doing this job for 3 years now, carrying diplomats and scientists between different worlds to help keep peace in the galaxy. It was quiet work, but important work. "Captain, we have a message coming in," said Lieutenant Park Day from his station. He was young, maybe 25, with the serious look that all new officers had when they graduated from the academy. Hana nodded. "Put it through the speakers." The voice that came through was rough and angry. It did not sound human. "Human ship, stop right now. Get ready for us to come aboard. You have things that belong to us." Hana felt her stomach tighten. She knew that voice belonged to a Krillian, one of the warrior races that controlled several star systems near human space. They were known for being aggressive and looking down on younger species like humans. Dr. Lee Min walked onto the bridge, his white lab coat still dirty from working in the science labs. Behind him came Ambassador Choi Yoon, an older woman whose job was to make peace treaties with alien governments. Her uniform had special badges that showed she was a diplomat, protected by galactic law. "This is Captain Kim Hana of the Terran Diplomatic Corps," Hana said into the communication system. "We are traveling through neutral space under diplomatic protection. Please respect our—" The ship shook hard as something hit their shields. Through the big window at the front of the bridge, 3 dark ships appeared out of nowhere. They were sleek and dangerous-looking, with weapons that glowed red in the darkness. "Protection?" The alien voice laughed, but it was not a nice sound. "You humans are like children who just learned to walk. You have no protection here." The fight did not last long. The Harmony was built for carrying people and supplies, not for war. It had only small weapons meant to scare away pirates. The Krillian ships were built for killing. Within minutes, the alien ships had broken the Harmony's engines and cut holes in the ship's hull. Metal pods attached to the sides of the ship, and Hana could hear heavy footsteps in the corridors as the aliens came aboard. The bridge doors exploded inward. Through the smoke walked a creature that looked like it was made for war. It stood 8 feet tall, covered in thick armor that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Scars covered the visible parts of its face, and its eyes glowed with a cold light. "I am Warlord Thexan," the creature said in broken human language. "You will give us what we want, or you will die." Ambassador Choi stepped forward with her hands up to show she meant no harm. She was trying to be brave, but Hana could see her hands shaking slightly. "I am a diplomatic representative of Earth," Choi said in a clear, strong voice. "Under the Galactic Accords, I am protected from harm. We can discuss whatever you think we have taken from you." The warlord looked at her for a moment. Then he raised a weapon that looked like a small cannon and fired. The energy blast hit Ambassador Choi in the chest. She fell to the floor without making a sound. The diplomatic badges on her uniform flickered once and went dark. "Words have no power," Thexan said to the remaining humans on the bridge. "Only strength has power. You humans think you are important because you talk well, but you are weak." More Krillian soldiers came onto the bridge. They grabbed Dr. Lee Min and put metal restraints on his arms. He tried to resist, shouting about his rights as a scientist, but the aliens did not care. "This one knows about human technology," one of the soldiers said. "The warlord wants him alive for questioning." Other crew members were not so lucky. Hana heard weapons firing in different parts of the ship. She heard screams that were cut short. She counted the sounds and realized that most of her crew was being killed. The Krillians left her and 2 other survivors on the bridge with the bodies of their friends. The alien ships pulled away, taking Dr. Lee and several other crew members as prisoners. Hana crawled across the floor to the emergency communication system. The ship was dying around her. The lights were getting dim and the air was getting thin. She knew she only had minutes before life support failed completely. Her hands were covered in blood from wounds she did not remember getting, but she managed to activate the emergency beacon. This was a special communication system that could send messages across many light years to reach Earth. With her last bit of strength, she recorded a message. "This is Captain Kim Hana of the UES Harmony. They killed Ambassador Choi Yoon. They took Dr. Lee Min and others as prisoners. They said we were just children who learned to walk. They said we were weak." She paused, feeling darkness closing in around her. Show them what happens when you hurt our people. The message launched into space just as the ship's power died completely. In the cold and dark, Captain Kim Hana closed her eyes and hoped that someone would hear her final words. She hoped that Earth would remember that humans always protect their own no matter what the cost. The beacon traveled through space carrying news that would change everything. Admiral Nam Sung was drinking his morning coffee and reading reports about ship repairs when the red alert flashed on his computer screen. In 27 years of military service, he had learned to tell the difference between small problems and big disasters. This message felt like a disaster. He opened the encrypted file and read Captain Kim's final transmission. Then he read it again. Then he read it a third time, feeling his anger grow with each word. 12 humans dead. 5 taken prisoner. An ambassador murdered while trying to use diplomatic protection. All of this done by aliens who thought humans were weak. Nam Sung picked up his secure phone and made several calls. Within 1 hour, every human government in the galaxy received the same terrible news. President Kang Hyo called for an emergency meeting of the Terran High Council, the group of leaders who made decisions for all human worlds. The meeting took place in a secure room deep underground on Earth. Around the long table sat representatives from every human colony, military leaders, and government officials. The mood in the room was darker than space itself. President Kang stood at the head of the table. She was a small woman, but when she spoke, everyone listened. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with controlled fury. 12 of our people are dead, she said slowly. 12 humans murdered in cold blood by aliens who thought we would do nothing about it. 5 more of our citizens are prisoners, probably being tortured for information about our technology and our defenses. She pressed a button, and a holographic display showed the faces of the dead crew members. Ambassador Choi Yoon's picture was in the center, her diplomatic smile frozen in time. They killed our ambassador while she was trying to invoke diplomatic immunity. They executed her like she was nothing. Like we were nothing. Fleet Admiral Wan Tae, the most decorated military commander in human history, stood up. He was an old man with gray hair and scars from battles fought decades ago. Madam President, we have traced the Krillian ships to their home system. Our intelligence suggests the prisoners are being held on Cax Prime, their main military world. It's heavily defended. Getting them out will require a major military operation. President Kang nodded. Admiral Nam, how quickly can we mobilize our forces? Nam Sung had been preparing for this question since he first read the message. A full battle fleet deployment will take 6 days. But, Madam President, this means using nearly half of our entire navy. Every other species in the galaxy will notice. They will ask questions. Let them ask, President Kang said quietly. Let them all ask. For 30 years, we have been the peacekeepers in this galaxy. When other species had conflicts, they called us to help solve them. When pirates attacked trade routes, we sent our ships to stop them. When disasters struck alien worlds, we sent aid and medical supplies. She walked around the table, looking at each person in the room. We built our reputation through patience, diplomacy, and restraint. We became known as the reasonable species, the ones who prefer talking to fighting, and that reputation has served us well. She stopped walking and faced the room. But there is something more fundamental about humanity that comes before diplomacy. Something that is built into our very nature from the time we lived in caves and hunted wild animals with stone tools. The room was completely silent. Everyone knew what she was about to say. We protect our own, President Kang continued. No matter the cost, no matter the odds, no matter who stands in our way. A human being can be a diplomat, a scientist, a trader, or a tourist, but first and always, they are one of us. And when someone hurts one of us, they hurt all of us. She pressed another button and the display changed to show a map of known space. Red dots marked Krillian territories. Blue dots showed human colonies and ships. The Krillians think they understand us. They see our peaceful nature and mistake it for weakness. They think that because we prefer words to weapons, we cannot fight. They believe that because we are a young species, We are inferior to them. Admiral Nam Sung felt his heart beating faster. He had served in small conflicts before, but never anything like what the president was suggesting. They are about to learn, something that every predator species in Earth's history learned too late, President Kang said. Humans may prefer peace, but we are very, very good at war. We survived ice ages, plagues, and conflicts that turned entire continents into battlefields. We did not reach the stars by being weak. She looked directly at Admiral Nam Sung. You have your orders, Admiral. Find our people, bring them home, and make sure the Krillians understand that humanity protects its own, regardless of the consequences. The vote was unanimous. Every member of the council agreed to authorize the largest military operation in human history. As the meeting ended, and orders went out to military bases across human space, something began to wake up that had been sleeping for decades. The peaceful diplomatic face that humanity showed to the galaxy was about to be replaced by something much older and more dangerous. The mobilization began immediately. Ships recalled from patrol duties, reserves called to active service, weapons factories working around the clock. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity went to war. The message was clear. You can negotiate with humans. You can trade with them. You can even disagree with them, but never ever hurt their own. Task Force Retribution moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. 63 warships and support vessels followed Admiral Nam Sung's flagship, the UES Indomitable, toward Krillian space. It was the largest human military formation ever assembled, representing nearly half of humanity's total naval power. Commander Oh Bin sat in the intelligence center of the Indomitable, surrounded by screens showing information from across the galaxy. For the past week, she had been using every contact and friend that humans had made during 30 years of peaceful trade and diplomacy. Now those relationships were serving a different purpose. We have confirmed the location of Dr. Li Min and the other prisoners, Oh Bin reported to Admiral Nam Sung during the morning briefing. They are being held at a military prison on Caxil Prime, the main Krillian world. Our long-range sensors show heavy security around the facility. Captain Yu Su, commander of the Marine Forces, leaned forward in her chair. How much time do we have before they kill the prisoners? Unknown, Oh Bin replied. But Krillians are not known for keeping prisoners alive for long periods. Intelligence suggests they are torturing Dr. Li for information about human military capabilities. Admiral Nam Sung studied the tactical display that showed Krillian fleet positions throughout their territory. According to their spies, the Krillians had dismissed the human response as a diplomatic show that would end with negotiations and apologies. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The first battle happened at a border world called Vextai. A Krillian patrol fleet of 12 vessels moved to intercept what their sensors told them was a standard diplomatic formation approaching their space. Instead, they encountered humanity's most advanced weapons. Railguns that fired metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Plasma torpedoes that burned through energy shields like they were made of paper. Electronic warfare systems that could turn enemy computers against themselves. The Krillian ships were bigger and had thicker armor, but they were not prepared for human tactics. The human ships moved in coordinated patterns, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. When one ship attacked, the others provided support. When the enemy focused on one target, the others struck from different directions. The battle lasted only 6 minutes. When it was over, no Krillian ships remained. They had all been destroyed or disabled. Admiral Nam Sung sent a message on all Krillian communication frequencies. I am Admiral Nam Sung of the Terran Defense Force. You have taken our people and murdered our ambassador. Return our citizens immediately and unharmed, and this ends here. Continue to hold them, and we will take everything you have piece by piece until they are free. The response came 12 hours later. It was a recording from Warlord Thexan himself, the same alien who had killed Ambassador Choi. Come and take them, children, he said with contempt in his voice. Your small ships and weak weapons do not frighten the Krillian hegemony. We have been warriors for 1,000 years while your species was still learning to make fire. Admiral Nam Sung listened to the message twice. Then he smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator that had found its prey. "All ships, this is the Admiral," he broadcast to the entire fleet. "The Krillians have made their choice. Now we make ours. Operation Rescue begins now." What happened next shocked military observers from across the galaxy. The human fleet did not charge straight toward Cax Prime as expected. Instead, they split into smaller groups and began attacking Krillian positions throughout their territory. Captain Li Huan's destroyer group hit supply convoys, cutting off food and equipment to Krillian military bases. Commander Park Ji's cruiser squadron destroyed communication relays, leaving Krillian commanders unable to coordinate their defenses. Major Shin Wu's special forces teams landed on asteroid mining stations and captured them without firing a shot. The Krillians tried to respond, but they discovered that fighting humans was nothing like fighting other alien species. Human ships appeared where they were not expected. Human tactics changed in the middle of battles. Human commanders seemed to think 3 moves ahead of their enemies. In one famous engagement, Captain Kim Su's frigate was surrounded by 5 Krillian heavy cruisers. Instead of surrendering, she flew her ship directly toward the largest enemy vessel while broadcasting surrender signals. When the Krillians lowered their shields to capture her ship, she fired every weapon she had at point-blank range, destroying the enemy flagship and creating enough confusion to escape. Other galactic powers watched the battles with growing amazement and concern. The Veltar Collective, known throughout the galaxy for their own military strength, studied recordings of human combat tactics, and quietly began reconsidering their diplomatic policies toward Earth. The Zephyrian Council, humanity's oldest alien allies, tried to offer mediation between the two sides. Admiral Nam Sung's response was short and clear. "When our people are home safe, we will be happy to talk." On Cax Prime, Warlord Thexan watched his fleets being systematically destroyed and began to understand what he had awakened. These were not the peaceful diplomats he had expected to intimidate with a show of force. These were descendants of hunters who had once chased prey across entire continents until it collapsed from exhaustion, and now they were hunting him. The siege of Cax Prime was about to begin. What followed was a campaign that sent shockwaves through the entire galaxy. Humanity did not just fight a war. They demonstrated why their species had survived ice ages, world wars, and the journey to the stars. They showed the galaxy what it meant to make humans truly angry. Captain Jang Kyung commanded the Cyber Warfare Division from a ship filled with computers and communication equipment. Her team of specialists had learned their skills during Earth's brutal corporate wars, where companies fought with computer viruses instead of bullets. Now they turned those skills against the Krillians. Within days, power grids on Krillian worlds began failing. Traffic control systems shut down, causing chaos in major cities. Even basic life support systems in space stations started experiencing mysterious problems. The Krillians discovered that their entire civilization depended on computer networks that humans could control from thousands of light years away. Commander Shinai led the engineering corps, the human military's construction specialists. Her teams did something that no other species had ever attempted. They built military bases on asteroids, turning chunks of floating rock into fortified positions that appeared overnight in Krillian star systems. The Krillians would go to sleep with empty space around their worlds and wake up to find human bases already built and operational. It was like magic, except it was just human engineering skill applied with military precision. But the most terrifying demonstration came when Admiral Nam Sung decided to show the galaxy exactly what human technology could do. He ordered the deployment of weapons that most species thought were impossible. The first test happened at a small Krillian outpost near a red giant star. Human ships fired some kind of energy beam at the star itself. For several hours, the star flickered and dimmed, as if it was struggling to keep burning. The Krillian outpost surrendered immediately, too frightened to fight. Military observers from dozens of alien species watched the recordings and felt sick. Humans had weapons that could affect stars themselves. The implications were terrifying. The siege of Cax Prime began with a blockade. Human ships surrounded the planet from every direction, But they did not attack immediately. Instead, they just waited, like predators watching wounded prey. Krillian fleets tried to break the blockade. They sent wave after wave of their best warships against the human forces. Every single attack failed. Human ships fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. They moved like parts of a single organism, each ship knowing exactly what the others would do. During one battle, a Krillian admiral later captured by humans described what it was like to fight them. "It was like fighting ghosts," he said. "Every time we thought we had them cornered, they would disappear and appear somewhere else. Every time we adapted to their tactics, they would change them. It was like they could read our minds." What the Krillians did not understand was that humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had learned every possible way to win battles, from ancient sword fights to modern space combat. Human military academies studied not just alien tactics, but the entire history of warfare on Earth. Captain Omin's squadron demonstrated this during the Battle of the Asteroid Field. When surrounded by superior Krillian forces, she used a tactic from an ancient Earth naval battle. She hid her ships among the asteroids and used the rocks themselves as weapons, pushing them toward enemy ships with carefully timed explosions. Commander Li Su's strike force showed another example of human creativity. When faced with a Krillian defense station that seemed impossible to destroy, he loaded cargo ships with rocks and ice from a nearby comet, then fired them at the station using magnetic launchers. The makeshift projectiles moved so fast that they punched through the station's armor like bullets through paper. Other galactic powers watched these battles with growing fear. The Xerian Empire, which had been considering an alliance with the Krillians, quietly canceled all military cooperation agreements. The Veltar Collective began reviewing their own defense systems, wondering if they would be effective against human tactics. The Zephyrian Council sent another desperate message offering to mediate the conflict. This time, Admiral Nam Sung did not even respond. He was too busy planning the final assault on Cax Prime. On the surface of their homeworld, the Krillians prepared for the worst. Warlord Thexan had stopped making proud speeches about Krillian superiority. Instead, he spent his time in underground bunkers, watching reports of his fleets being destroyed one by one. He finally understood what he had done. The humans he had dismissed as weak children were actually the descendants of the most successful predator species in their planet's history. They had not survived by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being the most persistent and the most clever. And now they were coming for him with the full fury of their entire civilization behind them. The final assault was only days away. Human forces had completed their preparations, and rescue teams were ready to extract the prisoners. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when humanity decided to end the war. Everything the Krillians had built over centuries was about to fall. The final assault on Cax Prime was a masterpiece of human military planning. Instead of attacking the heavily defended prison directly, Admiral Nam Sung chose a different approach. He would use the same tactics that had made humans successful hunters on Earth thousands of years ago: patience, coordination, and intelligence. Major Bei Hoon led the rescue team that would extract Dr. Li Min and the other prisoners. His soldiers wore advanced power armor that made them nearly invisible to Krillian sensors. They had trained for months to move silently through alien buildings and fight in close quarters. The operation began with a carefully planned distraction. Human ships attacked military targets on the other side of the planet, drawing most of the Krillian defenders away from the prison facility. While the aliens focused on the space battle, Bei Hoon's team landed quietly near the prison using small, silent aircraft. The rescue took 3 hours. The human soldiers moved through the prison like ghosts, disabling security systems and neutralizing guards without raising any alarms. They found Dr. Li Min in a small cell deep underground. He was injured and weak from months of torture, but alive. "Are you really here?" Dr. Li whispered when he saw the soldiers. "Or am I dreaming again?" "We're here, Doctor," Major Bei Hoon said gently. "We've come to take you home." They rescued 4 other human prisoners from different parts of the facility. All of them had been tortured for information about human technology and military capabilities, but all of them had refused to talk. They were hurt in body and mind, but their spirits were unbroken. The extraction was completed without losing a single human life. Within hours, the rescued prisoners were aboard medical ships heading back toward human space. But Admiral Nam Sung faced a choice. The mission was complete, their people were safe. He could order the fleet to return home and the war would be over. Instead, he made a decision that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. "We finished this," he announced to his officers. "Not out of cruelty or revenge, but to make sure it never happens again. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when you hurt humans." The final battle for Cax Prime lasted 2 days. Human forces used every weapon and tactic they had developed during the war. They did not just defeat the Krillian military, they completely destroyed it. Orbital bombardment reduced Krillian military bases to rubble. Cyber attacks shut down their command and communication systems. Landing forces captured key government buildings with surgical precision. The Krillian hegemony, a military power that had dominated its region for 3 centuries, surrendered unconditionally. Warlord Thexan was captured alive during the final assault. When human soldiers found him hiding in an underground bunker, he was no longer the proud warrior who had murdered Ambassador Choi. He was a broken creature who begged for mercy. "Please," he said to the human commander who arrested him. "We did not know. We did not understand what you were. Now you do," the commander replied. The war crimes trials began immediately. Warlord Thexan and his officers faced judgment for the murder of diplomats and the torture of prisoners. The trials were broadcast across the galaxy, ensuring that every species could see justice being done. But the real impact of the war was felt throughout known space. The galaxy's perception of humanity had changed forever. They were no longer seen as peaceful mediators, but as a species capable of total warfare when their own people were threatened. Some alien governments were impressed by human military capabilities and sought closer diplomatic ties. Others were frightened and began building larger defense forces. A few quietly began planning for the possibility that they might someday face human anger themselves. 6 months after the war began, Task Force Retribution returned to Earth. Admiral Nam Sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching his home planet grow larger in the viewport. It felt good to be coming home. Dr. Li Min, recovered from his injuries but still bearing the mental scars of his captivity, joined the Admiral on the bridge. "Admiral," he said quietly, "do you think the galaxy will ever trust us again? Will they still see us as peacekeepers?" Nam Sung thought about the question while watching Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. It was a beautiful world, home to billions of humans who had sent their sons and daughters across the galaxy to rescue 5 prisoners. "They will trust us, Doctor," he said finally, "because they will remember what happens when that peace is broken. We did not want this war, but we finished it completely, and now every species in the galaxy understands something fundamental about humanity." "What is that?" "You can negotiate with us. You can trade with us. You can even disagree with us strongly. But you never, ever hurt our own." Nam Sung gestured toward the fleet around them, toward the human worlds below, toward the entire civilization that had mobilized as one when their people were threatened. "Because if you do, we will come for everything you have. We will not stop, we will not negotiate, and we will not show mercy until our people are safe and justice is done." The message spread across the galaxy faster than any spaceship could travel. In government chambers and military headquarters on 1,000 worlds, the same words were repeated. Never hurt humanity's own. The war was over, but its lessons would last forever.